Hello, welcome back to another 100% all keys Zelda 2 randomizer, not randomizer, I'm sorry, regular 100% all keys tournament race. This is between Dan H and Enchantress of Numbers. This is group error, and I'm going to make a few of them, so bear with me. Both runners have been given the go. They have started. We'll wait for the delay to pick up. And we're off. There we go. See if I can get some game audio for you guys. Let me know how the audio to Larry mix is. First thing we're going to do here is we're going to head on over to Magic Container Cave. Both players are going to pick up the Magic Container and try to set up for a 50-point pbag drop, which will set the dictate the rest of the race for them. See Eon arriving to the Magic Container first, Dan taking a little bit extra time. And no drop for Eon, and Dan is going to get the drop. So Dan's already a little bit ahead based on getting that P-bag. So the goal here is to set yourself up to get attack level 4 coming out of Palace 1. Getting that P-bag definitely helps. Now you only need one of the P-bag drops in Palace 1 to get that attack 4. Eon's going to need both P-bag drops. They'll head into the first town here, Raru, and get the spell of shield. Again, 100% all keys means every spell, every item, every technique, and all of the various other things I didn't mention. Palaces, I guess, would be good. Grab the first spell here. Eon right now could set up for Life 2 coming out of Palace 1. Doesn't have to be 4-1-1, can be 3-1-2 or 4-1-2 depending on the P-bag drops. The extra life, taking the extra life will not matter as far as the attack goes. I'm going to head out and over into Parappa Cave. Twitch broke emotes, so I would ask you to post Parappa emotes, but it's not going to work too well. You can certainly type it out if you want. Just make sure the first P is capital. Take a little pause in the desert there to set up the walk down to get the heart container. But more importantly, to set up the skip of the bubble bridge. See if she gets it. And no, it doesn't cooperate. The encounters don't cooperate. Let's see if Dan gets it. And Dan does get the skip. You can see Eon has to go through this encounter. Dan H just took the overworld road encounter and was able to skip it because he got it on the same tile. There's the heart container. He'll kill the gorilla. Eon doesn't necessarily have to kill this gorilla since it doesn't matter anymore because she didn't get the P-bag, but she'll take care of it anyway. A lot harder to set up the skip in the reverse, so both players will just run through the bridge. Or whatever you want to call this. The encounter. Pause over there in the desert and make your way up. And you can see Eon took the lead early on. But by virtue of skipping that encounter, Dan H has now taken the lead, and he's up with the P-bag as well in terms of experience. So we head on into Palace number 1. There are 3 keys in Palace number 1. Again, the goal is to get out of here with attack 4. Eon's going to need both large enemies to drop P-bags instead of red jars. And Dan H is just going to need one of the 2. They head left for the first of the 3 keys. And they get it there. So this is Dan H's first match in the tournament. He is 1-0, but they have less people in their group, so each runner is awarded 1 victory based on the bye, I guess. This is Eon's last match, 2-1. She received the win via the bye. Defeated Link Hero of Twitch with a personal best of 81 minutes and 6 seconds during the race, and lost last night to Error. But still managed to get an 85-minute and 4-second run there. See Dan H skipping that skeleton where Eon doesn't need to. Well, skips that one. And she was a little ahead, I guess. Or a little behind. I don't know. Skips both the skeletons. I was looking at the wrong skeleton she killed. So skipping that skeleton will set up additional XP. You'll be working the bag drop on an enemy that gives you 30 experience points instead of 50. So you get like a 20-point net gain there. Make our way to the end of this hallway. Grab the key. See, Dan has attack 2 now. By virtue of getting that P-bag in Magic Container Cave. And they're going to head on over to the item in Palace 1, which is the candle. Again, jumping over both skeletons. They'll get these on the way back. One of the trickier rooms in Palace 1 is this bubble room. Both players have Beam Sword, though. So they'll be able to stun the bubbles before they get hit by them. And we're in the item room here. So Dan will get a... I'm sorry, he skipped the skeleton, so he won't get the P-bag drop there. And they'll get it back on the way up. Dan first to the candle. About a 4 to 5 second lead right there. So if both players are doing the same route in both the overworld and in palaces, you kind of wonder how they're going to gain or lose time. And most of that is gain or lost by overworld encounters, being able to avoid them or taking too many of them. As one huge place where you can lose time or gain time on your opponent, depending on how many you take versus how many they take. Another way to save time is to be out of here with attack 4. Dan does not get the P-bag drop there, so he has one last chance for it. Eon does not get the P-bag drop. Eon will be leaving here with attack 3. Dan still has one more chance for attack 4. On the next screen, he'll be fighting an orange Iron Knuckle that will either drop the P-bag or drop a second red jar. And here it is. It is a P-bag. Dan will have attack 4 leaving Palace 1. Eon not being able to get attack 4 took life 2. And she'll be leaving here with attack 3 when she fights Horsehead, which Dan H is at now. Down goes Horsehead for Dan H. He'll be placing the gem, and you can see the runners skipping levels for life and magic. When you place the gem, you get the maximum value of XP for whatever current level you're set up for. And Dan H mismenus there and accidentally takes life 2. Perhaps accidentally takes life 2. Maybe he'll just grab attack 4 inside of Trophy Cave instead. But I've never seen anybody do that in reverse. Because you still need 50 experience points no matter what. So I have to assume that that was a mismenu. He's on his way to the next town, but first he's going to stop in this cave here, known as Trophy Cave, to pick up the trophy. The trophy is needed to get the spell in the next town, which is Jump. And I believe they call it Jump Town. So it all makes sense. And Eon also grabs the trophy. And they'll both be on to the town of Rudo in a second. So this is a battle in Group Group E, if you will. Eon is in second place with a 2-1 record. Dan is 1-0. Dan is the favored, although it is not known by how much. I believe Dan was the Tier 2 entry in the group, and Eon was the Tier 3 entry in the group. See Dan picking up the spell in Jumptown, the jump spell. And Eon gets it as well. So the winner of this match has a huge leg up on who's going to advance to the stage round, the knockout round. Dan makes his way south. He's going to go through Jump Cave and then set up one of the more crucial walks in the game, or at least in the early stages of the game, the Bagoo walk. Jump Cave is 3 screens long, needing the jump spell to exit it on the 3rd screen. Dan takes a little bit of a bop there, gets knocked back, loses a few frames. That can happen over the course of the run. Eon mistimes the jump, but gets in the hitbox anyway. So no damage done. Let's see how both these players navigate this walk. Dan H goes through the middle of the swamp. Eon's going to elect to go a little bit more south. Both get an encounter. Dan H's encounter is in the swamp. Eon's encounter is in the grass tile. Dan takes a second encounter in the forest. Eon is the first to arrive at Bagoo's little shack there. So a little bit of a lead change. Grabs the note. The note will let the Riverman let you cross in the next town of Saria. Dan takes a death there. So that's death number 1. Normally this is a game overless category, but in racing terms, it's not possible to do that. Well, it is possible, but it's really, you know, for competition purposes, not practical. So if you do game over, you have to go back to the spot where you took the game over first before you can you have to revisit the spot where you took the game over. It doesn't have to be immediately, but you have to get there. So a little bit of a fetch quest here for spell number 3 in town number 3, the life spell. You have to go fetch the mirror under the table, bring it back to the lady who lost it, and then grab the life spell. So on the other side of this town, once you get the Riverman to let you through, is Death Mountain. And Death Mountain's the reason why you want attack 4 instead of attack 3. There's some red divers, and overall every enemy will just die faster with attack 4. So Eon's going to opt to grab the magic refill and refill her life at the same time. When you grab the magic refill, you get a set value of 255 MP back. So as long as that bar doesn't fill up to maximum, you can keep casting spells, and the bar will keep refilling. You'll see that them use that a few times in a run, more notably in Darunia when they go to grab Upstab. So Dan H is going to give the note to the Riverman and pass through. My stream kind of froze up here a little bit. Let me see if I can refresh it. I don't know if he went down or not. But Eon is in Death Mountain. Hoping to get a few pbags in Death Mountain to make up that XP loss. Again, the XP loss is huge early on because there's no real way to make it up. But once you get onto later palaces, there's diminishing returns on the XP you can farm or get from enemies. So it all evens out in the end. But early on, you definitely want it. And I have Eons ahead by 10 seconds here on timer. So let me just pause it for a little bit, sync them back up, since we lost Dan for a little bit. And 2, 1, go. And this should be more accurate as to how they are. There's an attack 3 red Dyra fight. Eon jumps into him first. And elects to cast life. Here's Dan with attack 4. You can see he takes 4 hits with attack 4. And very effortlessly got right through him. Eon had to cast life. Dan still has that little bit of a safety net. There is in a couple caves, and 2 more caves, I believe, a red jar where Eon can fill up on life. Remember, Dan is already down a life total. Dan is also at Magic 2. But there is no difference between life costs at Magic 2 or 1. It costs 70 MP no matter what. Both players are rocking 80 MP. And Dan's the first in Hammer Cave, but not that far behind is Eon. You can tell that Attack 4 really did some work there because Eon took the lead in the Bagoo Walk and was definitely the first into Death Mountain, but with Attack 4, Dan was able to easily kill things, even with that death going towards Bagoo's house. Nice double kill right there. Not used to seeing people do this screen in with the candle anymore. Dan takes a little bit of a bop there, not enough to send him over the edge. He saves it, gets the toes into the side of the rock and stays afloat. Also gets a nice axe to the face right there. So what was the Death Mountain trip for? It was for the hammer here. Hammer's going to be used in several spots within the course of the game. And Eon gets the hammer as well. Also now has attack 4. Again, that's not really going to matter so much when heading into Palace 2, because everything's gonna level out by Palace 3, I would say. Although Dan has a little bit of a more unique leveling strategy than I've seen before. He is 4-2-3, and I'm not sure I've seen anybody have 2 magic going into Palace 2 before, unless it's an alternative leveling strategy that I've not experienced yet. Certainly not going to hurt him. He grabs the magic container there that he used the hammer to uncover. And he's going to jump back into the hammer cave there and jump back into that cave. No, he's not going to jump back into that cave. He's just going to set up an encounter-free walk into this cave. Again, taking encounters costs time, so you want to take very few. even if it means ducking into caves to reset the overworld spawn, because the overworld encounters spawn based on time and based on steps, number of steps. So any runner familiar with this category will know where to best min-max that to make sure you experience as few as possible. And we're going to cross a bridge here to get to the graveyard. There is a 1-up on the other side of this bridge that most people do not take. Dan being down 1 life, I wonder if he's going to opt to get it. And we'll see here shortly. Yeah, he's going to go straight north. It was south in that desert was the 1-up. Using the hammer once again to break that boulder, and we're going to head on over to Medicine Cave. There's a 1-up outside of Medicine Cave as well. Medicine Cave is back in between Jump Cave and Bagoo's house. And Eon opts for the 1-up there. Better be safe. Sorry. And you can always use that extra life to save time later on in the game by taking a intentional death, so you don't have to backtrack through the screen. More notably in Palace 4, people do that. Let's see if she does the same setup here, walking back on the road now. Just going to go right for it. Yeah, attack 4 is no... Dyra is a no match for attack 4. It's a nasty screen with 1 orange Dyra and 2 red Dyras if you do this with lower levels. It's one of the places people say to make a save state at lower levels, because of the 3 Dyras being there to learn how to attack and stuff like that. But both players now have the medicine. Eon's going to take the intentional death there, save the walk back. So he starts at the beginning of the screen, doesn't have to walk all the way back. And Dan H is going to grabs the 1-up, and he's going to head on over to the town of Saria, or town of Mito, I should say. Turn in the medicine to get the 4th spell of the game, which is the fairy spell. And the sword technique of downstab. Start calling it the town of Dark Magician 1184. Because during his tournament race, he decided he wasn't going to go into the town and decided to make a left turn in the desert instead. It's definitely classic. It's clipped on his channel. I recommend everyone go watch it. There we go. Dan's going to get the downstab technique. Press downward to stab, I heard. So the fairy spell is pretty huge, because when you cast it and pick up an item, Link doesn't do that fanfare where he holds the item over his head and, you know, you have to wait until it's over before you can move again. You can cast fairy, pick up the item, and just keep going. And both players are going to utilize fairy spell to do that, to minimize the amount of fanfare lock. You know, humble brags. Link likes to show everybody all the items he gets. Hoist animation is probably a better way to not explain it, but explain it at the same time. I appreciate that, BT. Well, what do we do after this now? Surely we're going to go into the second palace, but before we do that, there's one other stop we have to make. You see Eon picking up the fairy spell. And that stop is going to be the Heart Container Cave, which is also boulder block. So the hammer was instrumental in getting out of the area where you exited Death Mountain, getting into the Medicine Cave, and getting the Heart Container in this cave as well. Both make it to Heart Container Cave clean, and there's Dan H with the fairy, picks up the heart. There is no animation whatsoever. Fairy costs 80 MP to cast. Both players have a 96 maximum. Eon gets a red jar drop there, so it's going to enable her to cast fairy. So now, as odd as it sounds, players are going to be rooting for timely red jars to drop instead of XP bags. That will just help them do more things in palaces with fairy or with the, additional jump spell and stuff like that. See Dan H making his walk over to Palace 2, takes an encounter. This is another short walk, but a walk where you can gain some time if you do it encounterless. Eon bangs into the P-Bag Cave to set up the encounters. Grabs the encounter on the road tile, but must have been leaning on left on the controller too soon and takes it on the swamp tile instead. I tell you what, it looked like she got it on the road tile. I would write a letter. And we're in Palace 2 for both players. Palace 2 has 4 keys. And as always, one item, that item being the glove, which will enable you to break blocks with your sword. Get to that first dead end. The randomizer player's nightmare room, where it looks like it's going to be the boss room, and then it turns out not to be the boss room. And then you realize you have to go get the glove to come back into Palace. That happens all the time. But here it's mandatory you go through the room, grab the key, and go back out. And then go back up from which you came. Making a stop at the first left to grab yet another key. And then going back up the elevator once more and taking another left. So there are 2 tricky things in Palace 2 that are coming up right here for Dan H once he goes up and then makes a left. The first being there's a block room before you have the glove. There's a P-bag on the ground, but the more important thing to worry about are the blocks that drop. You don't want to get yourself stuck in there because you'll be in a situation where you get soft-locked. You can also possibly get screwed up a little bit if the blocks drop too much on one side, and then you have to wait for additional blocks to drop that you have to climb and to jump over the other blocks. So let's see how it works out for him. The first screen, though, is this screen here with the bots that don't always cooperate. But I see players doing this a lot now. They grab the key and they fairy out through. And that screen's coming up before the glove. That was the third of 4 keys. Eon also has no problem grabbing that third key and ferrying through the room. Dan H grabs that red jar there, fill up his magic, fills up his life. He's at 5-2-3. Preferred leveling strategies, I think, dictate 6-1-3 leaving here. So he's going to need to get... Well, he took Magic 2, so Magic 3 is 300, and Magic 4, Life 4 is 400. So he makes it through the block room there. A little dangerous, but really not too much. So Helmet Head gives 200 experience, so he's fine. He'll be attack 6 on the way out of here. He just has to get to 300 XP. That's not true either. No, he has enough to get it now. He just needed 200 XP to be able to take attack 6 at the gem. And you can see him not even caring about that P-bag because attack 6 is guaranteed and he doesn't want to take any other levels in between. Alright, he is set up. Eon, on the other hand, wants to get out of here with 613, needs to find 300 more XP to get attack 5, and then needs to find 200 more XP for... Actually, 100 more XP for attack 6. So there's 50 right there. There's going to be another 50. Oh, it gets a red jar instead. The P-bag there would have been huge. Dan H is in the screen with the last of the keys, and then this is the screen Eon's in that Dan H was already in, where you needed the glove to get through. Dan picks up his last key. And when we count keys, or when I'm counting keys, I'm not counting keys that drop off of bosses or sub-bosses, so you can factor those in as well. So technically there are 5 keys in this palace. 4 that are on the ground, and 1 you get from the boss, Helmet Head. And Dan here is on the home stretch. Heading into the last screen before the boss. And then just pogoing over enemies because he doesn't need to kill anything anymore. Gets the red jar. Nice little safety net there for Helmet Head. And here you go. Here's the boss fight of 2. Can knock the helmet off and then down stab. Easy fight at attack level 5. And he's going to place the gem and walk out of here at 623. Eon, on the other hand, is not even counting XP from that Stalfos. She's going to grab the XP there from the... What the hell are they called again? Dark Nut? Iron Knuckle. And with the XP from the boss, we'll leave here at 612. So really not as dramatic as I made it out to be. Cancel both magic and life. Grab the key. 2 cycle. And there you go. 612. Dan H is going to walk towards Palace 6. Gets a couple encounters on the way. Doesn't hop into King's Tomb. Doesn't need to after getting the encounter, I guess. And then goes through the Fairy Cave. Fairy spell required to get through there to head to the island that contains Palace 3. Palace 3 has a sort of a tight walk to it. You do have to slink an encounter or hope for a back spawn. Let's see how he does. I guess you can consider that a back spawn. And makes his way into Palace 6, Palace 3, gets the red jar to fill up on magic, and he is on his way. Palace 3. Guess we can do that. Palace 3 has 4 keys, 5 including the boss, and you ideally want to make it out of here at 733. So they're really only going to gain 1 attack level at the gem. And he'll most likely take Magic 3 as it naturally comes to him. One of the important parts of Magic 3 is the fact that Reflect, once they get Reflect spell, will go down to 80 MP. It costs 120 right now, which would be 8 magic containers to cast. But you need the Reflect spell to beat the boss in Palace 4. So by taking Magic 3 here, it ensures that they'll be able to cast it when they need it. See, Dan picks up the BGT key. Let's see if Eon forgets the BGT key. Dan grabs key number 2 there in the outside courtyard dead end. And he's going to make his way down this elevator and then hang a left. Or we'll go right first, I'm sorry. I'm going to go pick up a key and the item in Palace 3, the raft, which will get us off of the western continent and onto the eastern one. There's the key. And there's the BGT key. Eon grabs it. Nobody's going to forget it this race. Dan takes Magic 3, and he picks up the raft. And he's going to backtrack and make his way towards the other key on this level. Eon misses the jump there. No big deal. Just get a little bit of momentum and make it the second time. Now she's going to be heading to the raft. And Dan's going to be making his way to the key in this next room here. Or it's one more room away, sorry. Eon's going to take her life 3. And she's also going to take Magic 3 within this palace. As Dan grabs the key in the stupid idiot room. And Eon takes Magic 3 and gets the raft. All in one fell swoop there, casting Fairy along the way. So that was the last key there for Dan. Now he's on just a straight path towards the boss. As the Swedish call him, Lance Heist Pla. I nailed that, as always. If your Twitch beta, live Twitch beta, whatever it is not broken, feel free to spam the Lance Heist Plas. Thank you. I got confirmation from Swedish people that I was correct when I said that. It's always nice to know when you nail pronunciations, especially being an Italian who lives in New York. A lot of words are very hard to say. See Dan going for the left side down stab jackhammer thing. I just made that term up. Feel free to use it. And Eon tries to escape the stupid idiot room. And Dan's placing the gem in Palace 3 and is going to grab Attack 7. Yes, I am taking chat requests for words you want me to naturally say during the course of the commentary. You can see Dan taking the encounter there on his way exiting Palace 3. Will not be encountering any Goombas in this screen, though, by the way. Just a few loaders and a Gorilla. And it's boss time for Eon. This time Dan goes into King's Tomb to safely walk back to Mito. Takes an encounter on the road tile. People call that a half encounter, because there's no enemies, but you still have to walk through it. He does take an encounter on the way to the town of Nubaru, though. And a second encounter as well. He does that north to south dig shake walk. There's Eon's attack 7. So both players are now 7-3-3, evened out. But just very early on, that attack 4 did provide Dan with a little bit of an advantage, coming from behind, taking a death, and easily killing things along the way where Eon had to take a few extra hits. So the town of Nubaru is the 5th town where we get our 5th spell. It's another little bit of a in-town fetch quest. You got to get some water from the fountain to give to the lady. And then pick up the ever so important fire spell. Eon takes the clean walk to Nubaru, saves a bunch of time there. Or I should rather say gains a bunch of time on Dan. Now Eon's going to grab the fire spell. Dan's going to leave here. And here's the second of the more important overworld walks coming up once you exit this cave right here. The walk to and from, and then back to again, Maze Island. It's a very long walk, but it's known to be something you can do encounter-free. But one wrong slink, a fairy spawning instead of just regular enemies, walking on the wrong tile can all affect you. Let's see how Dan does. He walks towards Maze Island with 0 encounters. Gonna make a little bit of stop over here, rescue a lost child, and then return the lost child to the town of Darunia for the 6th spell, which is the most important spell that they need right now, the spell of Reflect. And we talked about that earlier, and that's why they got Magic 3, so they can cast it. And they're going to have to use it at the boss of Palace 4, which is right there on Dan's screen. But we're going to put a little bit of a bookmark in there, and we're going to come back later. Eon gets the Troll Carrot, and that's what we're talking about. While the encounter is not dangerous, it does mess up the balance of everything else. But luckily, it was just a short walk there to her destination, so it didn't matter too much. Dan H gets the hidden one-up there and does what they call the Dazzle Walk. You start walking on a certain beat of the overworld music, and you can go encounter-free right to there and take the encounter skip. He just skipped an encounter there. You'll never know because you'll never see it. And he's going to try to skip the second one. I'm not sure if he hit up in time. And he did. So he skipped both encounters there. So that was a pretty flawless walk for Dan. Let's see how Eon does. See, Dan's running on 0 magic. Like I said before, the healers give you 255 magic. And during the refill, he's going to just cast Fairy while holding down to go through that chimney, the Fairy Claws, and pick up Upstab. Eon takes a clean walk as well and skips the first encounter. Let's see if she can skip the second one. And yep, she does as well. So both runners make a clean walk to and from Maze Island. Although Eon did take that fairy encounter on the way too. So not entirely 100% clean, but could have been worse. Eon also exhausts all her magic to do the same. Cast Fairy, go to get Upstab, and still come out of there with full magic so you don't have to revisit the healer. Yeah, you can hold down in the air as well, as long as you're holding down when you cast it. But if you try to jump and cast Fairy in the door in Mido, you can't go through the door of the church or the steeple, whatever you want to call it. Because the game considers you in midair. Well, Dan picks up Reflex, and he's going to be on his way to Maze Island. A little bit trickier to do this walk in reverse. You can see Dan misses the encounter skip, but he's going to elect to not try to set it up again. And walk through, takes a bop. Takes a second bop, almost gets knocked into the water. And he's just going to tank this other encounter as well. Not even bother to try to skip it. This one's a little bit easier than the first because there are not floating bubbles. Let's see how he does on the walk back. Now, if you notice, encounters, or the distance the enemies on the overworld spawn from you differ based on what tile you're on when they do appear. You can see on the grass tile, they appear very wide. If you take if you spawn the encounters on a forest tile, they're a lot closer. So when routing this and planning for it over the years and years and years, that was one of the considerations of where do you walk, where do you turn, kind of stuff like that. Because again, it's based on time and it's based on steps as well. There's 2 different timers happening. So that's just one of the many ways that people have min-maxed this over the years, taking that into effect. Grabbing our 7th magic container there on Maze Island. And you can walk through Maze Island in such a way where you can only take one of the spike tile encounters that Dan H is in right now. There are many more scattered across Maze Island, but this optimal route, you only take one of these, and it's on the way to get the magic container anyway that you have to get. Magic containers are required because it is 100% all items, but even if it was not 100% all items, in non-glitch categories, magic containers are required because for every magic container you get, you're allowed to get a spell in the town. And it doesn't... Most people would not notice this because of the way the game's routed and the way it's played naturally. But when you start with 4, you can get the spells in all four starting towns on the western continent. But you need the 5th magic container to get the spell in Nubaru. You need the 6th one to get the spell in Darunia. 7th one gets you the spell in New Kasuto. And the 8th one gets you the spell in Kasuto. So those are requirements to get those spells. And it's funny how a lot of people don't realize that, especially those who maybe not have played it when they were younger, but just watch speedruns. We're in Palace 4 now for Dan H. Palace 4 has 6 keys, no gestalts, and no maple syrup, but 6 keys, and the item is the boots. And the boots will let you walk on specific water tiles on the overworld. So Dan picks up the key and gets the red jar in this screen. These are some of the screens that players will jump into the lava and take an intentional death to get right back to the start of the screen to save a little bit of time. And I'm not entirely sure if the red jar would dictate if they would or wouldn't, because you do sometimes want to take a death to refill your magic. But nevertheless, Dan gets the red jar and opts to walk out of there. Eon's going to cast Jump here and make her way to that room. Dan grabs the boots. So in Palace 4, you enter 733. Optimal strategy calls for leaving with 834. And Eon just missed the jump there. Tried to save it with Fairy, but even so, would have had to leave the room to come back because you have to stab the key. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that happened. I wasn't looking at the screen. That wasn't intentional for magic, right? Because there's no reason to use magic on the screen. So I think that was a miscalculated jump, unfortunately. I believe they call that the Highlander percent. That filled the requirement for something Canadian, by the way. So give me credit for that. Eon will be on the way to the boots here, and Dan H is going to get this other key. He's got to pass this elevator back up first. And then head all the way left to the dead-end room and grab the key. Gets a little bit of a Eiffel Tower whiz-robe action there, but he makes his way out. And he's in the stupid idiot room. Makes himself a little staircase, and relatively no trouble here. I know people who would take 100 hits in that room of damage. Now he's going to make his way back up. And Eon's going to grab the second key. See if she takes the intentional death after accidentally taking a death before. No intentional death to be taken. Play it a little bit safe. Well, she has 2 deaths now to Dan H's 1. But one of hers was intentional. I don't know if Dan H took an intentional death in that room either. I didn't notice it if it happened. But he's going to make his way straight left here for another dead-end room. And another key. This one's a little bit easier than the other room, or simultaneous stupid idiot rooms for both players, but different ones. Almost in sync with that downstab stair building. So really, over the course of the run, they're not too far apart, but it becomes like where could Eon gain some time here over Dan H to make this a little bit closer, and that comes with overworld walking, not taking too many hits, perhaps intentionally taking deaths to save some time. And you see Dan taking one right there. And just like chip damage here and there, because every time you take damage, you take a little bit of a bounce backwards. And of course, the Valley of Death walk is very important. And we'll get there soon enough. All right, I believe Dan's one screen away from Carrick, the boss of Palace 4. Queues up Reflect, casts Reflect, and there we go. So it doesn't matter what your attack level is for Carrick. It's you got to cast Reflect and bounce his beams back at him. Takes the same amount of hits every time. But having a good Carrick fight would mean good RNG to where the reflected hits would hit him almost instantly, or just not miss at all. Eon takes the intentional death there in the last of those key rooms with the lava. And Dan's going to place his gem and walk out of here 8-3-4. And put those boots to use by walking on the water to get to Palace 5. With no stops in between. Direct path right to 5 here. Find a hidden path. Now in Randomizer, it's set up where you can walk on any water tile in the game when you have the boots. But in the original game, there's only specific paths that you can take, and specific water tiles you can actually walk on. There's Dan's attack level up from the gem. Now that he's attack level 8, he's going to want to come out of here 8-6-6, but that doesn't mean he's taking 3 magic levels and 2 life levels inside of the palace. He's actually going to set it up so that he gets attack level 9 worth of XP, and then properly distribute that to the magic and life levels thereafter. It's one of the things we wish we knew as a kid to do. But after all these years and work on the routing and such, it's very much incorporated into normal runs. So he grabbed that key there. Eon had a little bit of trouble with Carrick's RNG, as mentioned before. How bad that fight can go sometimes. So Dan H grabs the key in what they call the Eco Key room. You could use Jump and damage you boost yourself onto that ledge, so you can grab the key and go in one motion, as opposed to just casting Fairy, leaving the room, and coming back in the room to grab the key. Seen a few runners do that consistently in the tournament. Dan didn't even have to try it once. He'd just go right for the fairy and walk back. Gotta cast jump here to grab that key, and this is another little RNG part of the game where you have to hope the blocks fall correctly for you. In last night's race, Dig Shake had a little bit of a trouble in that room because none of the blocks wanted to fall. So then he tried to make something happen, and then all the blocks on the right side started to fall onto his head and broke before they could hit the ground. So it's something that can trip you up. Dan seemed to handle it very well. Eon also opts to just go right for the fairy in that room. There's a legend that says that you can't do the Eco Key room with jump if you don't have a sub 90 PB. That rumor was started by V. Resner. And a lot of the younger runners should know that that does exist. And V. Resner would haze you if you tried it anyway. But Palace 5 is a long and boring palace. There's 5 keys in there. There's an item, the flute, which will get rid of the river devil in the road that blocks your path to Palace 6. But let me just mention the fact that these runners have raced 2 other times before. Last year's tournament, I believe they raced, and Dan H won that race with a 83-32 to Eon's 86-17 in that race. And earlier in that year, they were in a multiplayer race, which was won by Error, who's also in their group. Dan H finished 4th with a time of 83 minutes. I'm sorry, I'm totally messing that up. Yeah, no, 83 minutes is right. 83 minutes and 39 seconds, and Eon finished 9th in that race with 96 minutes and 15 seconds. Also interesting to note that Ness Martin was in last place in that race with a time of 102 minutes. So good job, Ness Martin. So based on the history I can find, Dan H has a 2-0 lead on races that involve both runners. Eon's really hoping to bring it to 2-1 and solidify herself as somebody who's going to leave the group stage based on win-loss. Dan H makes the long path up and around to grab that key on the ledge and then has to return pretty much the whole way to get to the elevator that will take him to the item room. Eon's going to go down this elevator, take a left. And he's going to actually arrive at the flute first. And then go for that key. So a little bit of one of the very few places where you'll see runners take a different path. Although I believe Dan may have gotten the flute first as well. And in my setup to the previous matches between the two players, I did miss that. But still holding on to a lead here. We can time it at the gem and see how far the lead is now. Dan has 1 key left to get. It's going to be down this elevator in the next room and to the left. Grab a jar there, but he's already at near full magic, so he's not going to go for it. Takes a bop there from a Mago. Magos could spawn at inappropriate times as you're trying to walk through this palace. And there's the last key for Dan. Eon's going to grab that hidden jar there. Fill up her magic and be on her way. Mr. Magoo. Back through the hidden wall. And Dan H is on the path to the boss, Goomba. Let's see if Dan tries to get into Goomba's hitbox or just does a standard fight. Bounce over to the other side, get a couple stabs in, jump over the mace, and by the time you get him to the other side of the screen, he is dead. Didn't need that much experience, and he's going to place this gem and grab a buttload of experience on his way out. That gem is placed at about like 1 minute and 17 seconds. He's going to get 7,333 experience points additional from placing the gem. Walking through the water, he's going to go grab this heart container, cast Fairy beforehand, because when he takes his magic level ups later, his magic will get restored anyway. And he doesn't have to watch Link humble brag and put the heart over his head. Eon grabs the last key and will be heading towards Goomba now. So that was 1 minute and 17 at the gem. See, Dan makes it to the River Devil encounter list. Let's see if he can get the first of the skips. And he does not, so he's just going to opt to tank right through it. And he takes that attack level 9 worth of experience. And grabs 2 magic levels and 1 life level. He's going to go for another life level there, so he's going to exhaust all XP points. And wind up with the Tommy Two-Tone strats there with the 867. Eon gets on the other side of Goomba. And again, dead before they reach the other pillar. 2 cycles the key, and she's going to go place the gem now. It looks to be about like a 1 minute and 48 second difference right now between the 2 runners. Yeah, Justin, I was wondering if he didn't mean to take life 7 as well. But earlier in the game, he took a life level out of order, and I just didn't know if that's part of what he does. So I don't want to, I don't want to start dropping blame. But Justin, since you're in chat, how would that affect him going forward, taking that life 7 as opposed to banking that XP? It would just make sure he doesn't take Magic 8? Okay. I don't think Eon got the down input on that tile. It's like a very quick encounter. Dan makes his way through Bonner Pass and is in New Kasuto. Oh, thanks, Rep. Dan does do 877. Okay. So the way he took it, it looked like he took it naturally. But again, I know that people do take 866 heading out of the XP, so... Yeah, he took life 3, or I'm sorry, he took life 2 before he took attack 4 heading out of Palace 1. Where he then needed, after Palace 1, he needed 50 more XP, no big deal, for attack 4. But it just seemed odd to do it out of order. There's a spell for Dan in New Kasuto, which is a spell, which he'll use right here. It's not entirely useless, this spell. You might see players lean on it in the Valley of Death. It turns turns certain enemies into bots. But in this town, it uncovers the magic key there, which is very important because Palace 6 has 0 natural keys on the ground. Only the keys from the sub-bosses and the boss. You could ferry through the locked doors, but this is a 100% all keys category, so you have to grab the keys anyway. You have to grab the item anyway, so you won't be seeing players do that. Eon is now in New Kasuto. Dan grabs the last item. 2 items in New Kasuto. That one is blocked by needing 7 magic containers, but again, the natural progression of the game, you'll have those magic containers anyway before you need them for the spells that they're required for and before you need them for uncovering the 8th magic container. Eon queues up Spell. She's going to be on her way for the magic key. The screen Dan H is in, it's one of the socially acceptable places where you could cast Fairy if you wanted to. Fire if you wanted to. If you cast Fire anywhere else, you get flooded with whispers in Twitch talking about how bad of a player you are. And no one wants that to happen. One last heart container there to pick up for Dan H. And he just narrowly avoids the encounter to grab it. The Dig Shake fan club has shown up in chat. Dan H going to take an encounter there? No. Counter goes the other way. And he's entered Palace 6. And I've been on top of these layouts. Sorry about that. So again, Palace 6 have 0 keys on the ground. You want to grab the item, which is the cross, and you want to defeat the boss. There are 2 mini-bosses on the way. They're Reboneck refights, and then the boss Barba. So you can streamline this palace pretty well here. Really, all the optional places you can go just contain pbags. And they do these runners there's no point to picking them up anymore. Or there hasn't been a point to picking up a pbag since Palace 2. We'll put it that way. Eon's making her way back through Bonner Pass. So I guess if there is a tricky situation in Palace 6 here, here's the first of the 2 sub-boss fights, or refights, Rebo refights. Eon grabs that last heart container. This Reboneck guards the item. If there is a tricky part of this palace, it would probably be making sure you have magic to cast Fairy before a particular drop before the end boss. And at magic level 6, you have to make sure you bank at least 40 XP. That's 2 1/2 bars of magic, I believe. Because if you don't have the magic to cast Fairy, you'll never get the Barba. And then you'll either have to find a way to take a death, which doesn't exist. There's another sub-boss. Once you beat that sub-boss, the next screen has the drop where you need to cast Fairy. You would either have to then backtrack to get the magic, or find a way to take an intentional death, or do it after the drop and then climb up and back around. And it's, that's a time killer right there, for sure. Other than that, it's pretty straightforward. Beat 2 Rebonecks and fight Barba, and decide if you're going to do Jackhammer or not. Dan H is going to take 2 consecutive drops there. Let's see if he gets the ceiling walk. He does get the ceiling walk there. He is out of bounds and therefore disqualified. Is there a blue iron knuckle on top of there before the 1-up? For some reason, in my memory, they were just 2 bubbles. But that might be like randomizer jading me from jading my memory there. Okay, so Justin Man Bledsoe Favre brings up a great point that you can make a jump. It's a tricky jump, but you can make the jump thereafter the final Reboneck before you take the drop, and take a take a death abuse to the blue iron knuckle who's over there. And there's also a 1-up as well, so... So Eon grabbing the cross and is going to head back to the other side of the palace to make the drops. Lordo, I believe in the next tournament we're going to award like time reduction based on participation in other race chats and like swag moments during the game. If Dan H takes the elevator in Great Palace and makes it warp off the screen, that's like a 5-minute reduction in time. So depending on what his time is when he arrives at Great Palace, he might consider doing that next time. Stuff like that. And there's the jump you would have to make to get over to the blue iron knuckle on the other side. And there's the screen where you have to have the magic to cast fairy. I've seen people make that jump because they need the 1-up, and then the bubbles drain them of magic, so they can't cast fairy. That's a sad situation to go, 70 minutes. No jackhammer for Dan H, but 1 cycles Barba anyway. That's a sad thing to see. I believe it happened to Dig Shake during his sub 85 attempts, where he sub 85, I forget what the sub was that he was gonna do. And Dan places the gem there at 3,500. That's going to get him Magic 7. Sub 80 attempts. Thanks, Loud Goat. He needed the safety net. He needed the 1-up and went for it. And, 70 minutes into the run, the bubbles drained him of magic and he couldn't cast fairy, so run over. So I definitely seen it happen to other people as well. Here's our last town and last spell, the town of Kasudo. We're going to pick up the required spell of Thunder, which is the only way to damage the boss. The penultimate boss of the game, Thunderbird. Makes him reveal his face, and then you can just stab it repeatedly. Should be the focal point of every game. And here's the last refight here for Eon. Very nicely done. Now, Dan H is going to make the walk to the Valley of Death, and the walk to Valley of Death and the walk within Valley of Death. Plenty can go wrong there. You want to do encounter skips along the way. And I've definitely seen great players like Anti85 mess up encounter skips time and time again consecutively, often going 3, 4, 5 at a time before he finally gets it. Dan H is going to force an encounter there, and he's going to just hang out in this graveyard tile and hope to skip this 1 encounter. He does not. And he was going to go through it, then go back, but there's something with this encounter where if you scroll the screen, you despawn a red jar. And he needs that red jar. So he's just going to walk through it and grab the red jar. And make his way. Now he takes 1 encounter there. You can see him using the spell. Turns those Moas into bots. He's going to hang out there and skip this encounter, again using the spell. So 7 Magic 7, the spell turns to 24 XP. That's a second unforced encounter for Dan H in the walk. So at 24, you can use it pretty liberally every time you get into an encounter. So that's very nice. That's the difference between 6 and 7 right there, is spell goes down about 8 MP. Also makes Thunder cost 100 instead of 120. So you can fire off a shield or jump and reflect, whatever you want to do. All right, Eon grabs Thunder and is now making the walk towards Valley of Death. Dan goes through the first of the 2 caves. This is the last encounter. It takes a whiff on it. So 2 forced encounters in 1 whiff. And didn't get the initial skip into Valley of Death as well. So Eon can make up a bunch of time here. just by nailing all the skips and taking no additional encounters. Still a decent chunk of change, though. Dan H is in Great Palace, as Eon is entering the Valley of Death, hits the skip. It's going to go grab the red jar. And she's on her way through, hoping to not take this encounter, but does. And then get over to the first encounter. Not electing to use the spell in that encounter. Perhaps trying to save a little bit of time to... Oh yeah, she is Magic 6 and not Magic 7. Misses the skip there. See, Dan H goes down the first elevator, goes left. Now you're just going to pretty much take rights for days until you get to that room where the fairy exists. And then you can go left in the next room. It's basically the easiest way to remember this palace and where to go. Take a left to the first elevator, and then go right for days, and go down every elevator until you see the fairy room. Go down one more time, and then just go left, drop, go right, drop, and then go right, and you're done. See how this Bird Knight does? Goes to greet Dan H right at the side of the screen. Dan H gets out of there, though. I would say there's very few places within Great Palace that would trip somebody up. Having the life needed to take a death abuse if you need the magic would be a place where somebody could get screwed up, but Dan H has enough lives. Not being able to properly jump over spicy chickens and taking bops and chip damage here and there. Scott Bakula room, especially. See, Eon is now in Great Palace. Dan goes 1 for 1 on the Never jar. And this is the Scott Bakula room right here. Just missing a jump, getting hit, getting bad beam sword pattern. This guy just being on top of you like that could slow you up. It didn't seem as disastrous as it could have been, but it's damage. And who knows if that's going to take a factor later on. Yeah, that was one of the beauties of games when you were younger. You know, when you were just a kid and you got like a fresh new graph paper pad. Just mapping dungeons and making maps in general and just exploration. And now you play a game and it's like you want everything like very spelt out for you. So you can immediately go on Reddit and complain about how linear it was. And I don't mean you, because I don't go on Reddit just, you know, harassing you and looking at your posts or whatsoever. And I won't be doing that after this run, but like the global you. So there's the fairy room. Dan H could have went right there and refilled his health. You can go left for a free guy as well. But he's just going to keep on going. Cast fairy there. Go through this room. We're going to drop in this room. This is the L7 room. Make a drop here. Don't get hit by this guy. Oh, nobody wants that. And we're going to take the drop here. But first, we're going to take the intentional death to refill our magic. There is a possibility of a red jar being in the room you drop into. But at this stage in these runners' careers in this game, might as well just take the death there. You're not going to die to Thunderbird. And Thunderbird is in the next screen, so you cast Thunder. And let's see what else Dan H casts. He doesn't have Magic 8. So he casts Thunder, and that's all he's going to really do. He's just going to work the pendulum. No jump, no shield, no reflect. Just get that pendulum swinging right. Dan's a little bit off, but it doesn't matter. Attack 8 goes down pretty easily. And cues up fire because, you know, you have to cast fire. The other socially accepted room to cast fire in is the Dark Link fight, and Dan does it. Fire is not an additional spell in this seed. It is straight up fire. Yeah, Mal hit it right on the head. You can't cast a shield or reflect in that room because you have to save it for fire. It's gonna sit in the corner, freely stab. I don't know if he's stabbing to the rhythm of like Enter Sandman from Metallica, or if he's tub thumping his way to victory there. But there you go. Dan H has won the race and has moved to 2-0 with a time of 80 minutes and 21 seconds. Eon's going to take the first drop and then go into her room. And head on down. Is that a true thing? Does he really get more hostile? Eon opting for the jar, no jar, just die and get my health back strat. And we're on to Thunderbird. Attacks Magic 6, we can only cast Thunder here. Thunder cast 120, costs 120 at Magic level 6. Gets a little bit of hit there. Gets the pendulum a little bit off kilter. Gonna hang out in the right side of the screen to get it set up again. One more hit and Thunderbird's down. And we're on to the last boss. So it was kind of a close race. Early on, it looks like Life 4 made a little bit of difference, as it allowed Dan H to play a little bit from behind after taking a bad walk towards Bagu and taking a death along the way as well. Made up that time in Death Mountain, and then seemingly just gained a little bit of time here and there. Had a lot of stuff go his way. Had a better Carrick fight, better Carrick RNG. And there you go. Enchantress of Numbers. A respectable time, by the way. So for tiebreaker purposes, that will move her to 2-2. But chalk that up for an 82-38 or 82-38. Yeah, that sounds about right. So a relatively really good run for Enchantress of Numbers. Could have went a little bit better. Wasn't as good as her PB run, but it was better than her race last night, for sure. And has a really solid average there. Somewhere around roughly like 83, maybe. 83 minutes. See if Eon or Dan want to come into the conference room. We have some donuts, a good selection of bagels. New York bagels, by the way. So you know you definitely want to double dip the conference room. Grab one in the conference, like during the conference. And then as everyone's heading out, you'll just, you know, hey, I'll just go ahead and, you know, grab another one. You can be that guy if you want to be that guy in my conference room. I'm just saying. So see if either one of them wants to come hop in. All right, Eon's going to come on in. So while we wait here, while we have a little brief period of silence, awkward silence. Who's everyone picking to win the tournament here? Or who is everyone's? I guess that's a little bit of a loaded question. Who's everybody want to win the tournament? I should say. More importantly, is it Dig Shake? V Resner is my guy, man. I would vote for V Resner as well. Hello. Hey Dan, congratulations.
Hello.
Am I on push to talk? I am not on push to talk, man. Wow. Hello. That is me, guys. I am so sorry. The stupid Discord, if you leave it open too long, like you totally lose the effectiveness of Discord. It doesn't let you chat. So I'm going to give that a little bit of a restart. That's my bad. I should have restarted before the race. It's a little pro tip to everybody who ever uses Discord is to make sure that you restart it. Hello.
Hello.
Good game, guys.
Thanks. Good game, Dan.
Yes. You too, Eon.
Oh, I think I just deserve a G on that, not a GG.
Which half of the G do you get though?
I think the game.
Just game game somebody in chat if you wanna.
Yeah, just when it wasn't a good game, but it was a game. So.
Well, relative to your other times, I mean, it was a pretty good game, but you had that attack 9 mess up there.
Yeah, I don't know what I was doing, but I got distracted and hit the wrong thing. So.
9 run. Definite GG then.
Thanks. So I just wanted to have less magic than you, Dan, so.
Yeah, that always works. So I got my P-bag in the magic cave somehow, even though I completely screwed it up. Then I got 1 P-bag in Palace 1. It was all set up for attack 4. I placed the gem and took life 2 at the crystal. I don't know what the hell. It was in my head. I gotta cancel all these levels, and I hit up, and there was nothing to cancel. So I took life, but luckily it only dropped me to 950, so I was still right on track.
Right.
Yeah. And I died on the way to Bagu in a forest tile. So those were my 2 screw ups, but otherwise I was pretty clean.
And taking the life 7 later on in the run, that's something you plan to do, right?
That's always what I do, yes.
Okay. Yeah, when you took that life 2, I'm like, oh man, I've never seen somebody you only need 50 XP anyway. It wasn't that big of a deal. But I'm like, I don't want to call him out for mismenuing because maybe that's maybe he'll just grab it in jump cave or whatever. But I'm like, man, why would you not take attack 4 when you could? And it's good to know that it was a mistake. But you had a pretty clean run after Bagu, I should say. You did take that death right before Bagu, and really, the only thing really, I guess, that slowed you down a little bit was the VOD walk thereafter.
And that was just one encounter I missed. I missed the skip going into Valley of Death, but that's not too big of a deal. And then just one single skip that I missed. At least there was no cantaloupe from last year.
What did he do last year? Did he miss it a few times?
He missed it like 6 times racing against me, and then just went through the encounter instead. And then I passed him to upset him.
And you guys raced last year in the tournament, did you not?
Enchantress and I, yes.
Yeah,
we were in the same group.
Yeah, you won that one as well, 83 minutes to 86 minutes. In fact, you're 2-0. Or now 3-0 in races against Enchantress of Numbers. But Eon, what factors played? What other than the attack 9? What else could you, complain about during your run?
Yeah, I forgot to cast jump in the first of the lava rooms in Palace 4, and which ended up in me taking a lava bath much earlier than I expected. So yeah, I just instead of jumping onto the first platform, I jumped early expecting to have jump cast already and landed right in the lava. So that was not good. And then I played a little conservatively after that because I had only planned on taking 2 death abuses, so had to conserve magic to not have to take all the death abuses.
Do you normally take that one up outside of Death Mountain to then take the Death Abuse in Medicine Cave?
I don't normally do that, but Prez mentioned taking that death abuse in Discord earlier, and I decided I was going to do that tonight.
Okay. Yeah, because I don't know if because I watched you a little bit last night, and I don't remember if I saw you do that or not.
No, I didn't do it then.
Yeah.
It was just, I was like, oh, that sounds like a fun thing to do. So.
Well, at 2 and you're sitting at 2-2. Dan, you are 2-0 with the victory over the bye as well. You have 2 matches left against Error and Link Hero of Twitch. So best of luck to you. Any plans to race those? Do you have any dates on the schedule?
Nope. Everything right now is revolving around my work schedule, which is night shift, and also coaching football. My team is in the state semifinals right now, so that's taking up about 90% of my time.
Well, congratulations.
I was glad to get this one in, though.
Yeah, glad to get that in. So now I, unless I manage to squeak in on a wild card, I think this is my tournament life. So,
well, as we're talking about the wild card, by the way, good luck to in the football thing as well as the rest of this tournament. I am looking up rules here because I want to see what the wild card in fact is. But if 2 people move on for every group, that is 16 players, is it not?
Right. So I forget how many wild cards there are going to be, but I also don't know how the buys are going to factor into the wild card draw either, since not every group has a buy.
Yeah, I'm on the challenge page right now, and as you guys were talking, I was trying to find as best I could the rules for the wild card, if there were any. I don't even see anything mentioned about players automatically advancing, either whether it's the top and then wild cards or top 2 then wild cards. But I would assume it would be an average of time.
I think it's total time, as what Prez had said.
Oh, there are 9 groups. Okay, I can count.
But with having an uneven number of racers in all of the groups, average may make more sense. So I don't know.
Yeah, because you guys race 1 less than some other people. In fact, there's only there's 2 people that dropped out of Group D, so there's only 3 people in that group. So yeah, it's very weighted in terms of, it looks like there's 5 groups of 5, 1 group of 3, and 3 groups of 4.
Yeah.
So if it is total time or average time, it doesn't matter. Like I think that you have a good solid time for that to possibly happen. So I hope that holds up for you. And with that said, good job, guys. And anybody want to? You guys want to plug anything coming up? No,
I don't.
Dan doesn't, but make sure you check out his other 2 matches that are going to happen sometime within the next couple weeks versus Error and versus Link Hero of Twitch.
I guess the only thing I would plug is coming up, I'll be in my first season of the SHI tournament.
Oh, SHI tournament season 5 it's debuting pretty shortly. Why don't you go ahead and tell us about that?
So we are racing Tiny Toon Adventures this season, and this is my first season in it, and I don't know a lot of the other details.
Not a lot of details are meant to be known, but yes, I wish you the best of luck in that. And speaking of, later on tonight, there will be a showcase race of the SHI tournament on this channel, featuring the 4 games we've played in the first 4 seasons, so... that should be very fun. But congratulations, Dan. Eon, best of luck on getting into the wild card with your time, and thanks for letting me restream for you guys.
Yeah, thanks for the restream and the commentary.
All right, see ya.
You got it. Thank you. And thanks to everybody else as well for hanging out and making chat lit during this. This is Dan H. Getting the victory over Eon, moving to 2-0 with a time of 80 minutes and 21 seconds, and Enchantress of Numbers moving to 2-2 with an 82-minute, and I lost it, 82-minute and 38-second run That puts her average at around high 82, low 83. But all three runs were in the mid to low 80s, so seems to stand a good chance to make a wild card depending on what the factors are. Make sure you do follow the runners. It is Dan__H and Enchantress of Numbers, not Champtress of Numbers, as some people like to type out in the layout. I also am screwing this up, so let me just do a copy and paste. That should work. Make sure you follow them both. And thanks for hanging out, guys. And look for more tournament action on various other channels. I guess I can plug what is coming up since I do have it open. There's a race on, what is that? What is the 17th? Is that a Friday? John Bloody Thumbs versus V-Lac is at 2 p.m. And then on this channel on Saturday, 4 p.m., Highlander versus JSR 2 Gamers. So that should be a fun one. But again, thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you guys later.